Tide fans, welcome to the Adapted Athletics Coaches Show. I'm Dom Taylor, so excited to be bringing you this new way of diving into all things Alabama Adapted Athletics. And real quick, we want to take this opportunity to thank Honey Stinger, one of the great new sponsors here at Alabama Adapted Athletics. Honey Stinger is a sports nutrition brand that uses natural sweeteners in their products. They're going to assist our athletes this season in preparation, performance, and recovery for all the upcoming competition that they have this season. You can try some of their new products like the Honey Stinger Waffle Bar as well as the Honey Stinger Energy Chews. Lots of great products that they have, so thank you so much, Honey Stinger, and you can see that logo right back there. Very excited to have them joining the Adapted Athletics team, and somebody well-established already on the team, the coach of our women's wheelchair basketball team, Coach Hynes, joining me today. Very excited to have him with me as the first official coach on the Coaches Show for this season. So, Coach Hynes, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Dom.
Absolutely. We're going to jump right into just what happened this last weekend. A 4-0 record to begin the season, the first competition of the season. You went out guns a-blazing, and you did a phenomenal job, you and the girls. 2 wins apiece over UT Arlington and Arizona. A very solid way to start 4-0 in the women's division. You and Coach Carolina Linguita, what were your main takeaways of what went so successful this weekend and what led to several very dominating wins over conference opponents?
Yeah, I think our big goal right now is just to keep getting better every day. And, we went into the weekend with pretty high expectations, but no matter what happened, win, lose, draw, we were just focused on getting better. And we know that this is just the start. Those teams are going to get better. We need to get better as well. But super impressed with just our effort level. Super impressed with all the girls coming on with the right kind of energy. And it led to some really big wins. And what a better way to start the year than 4 wins in college division, and also a lot of room to improve, I think, too. So really excited about the future.
Undefeated to begin the season. Obviously you don't want to let it go to your head, but there is no better way to start that off. Yeah. Talk about some of the blue-collar stats, some of the things that you've been trying to really emphasize this year, some of the things that you're trying different things. You told me you want to start really marking those stats. You want to take them down this season. How do you feel like your team did in terms of picks, back picks, screens, seals? How was that this weekend?
Yeah, that's kind of a big focus that we talked about at the end of last year, leading into this year, especially now having Lindsay on our bench. That's something we're going to keep track of a little bit more, is just the things that don't show up in a usual stat sheet, like a successful back pick that we get an easy look off of, or a seal that leads to a layup. And I think we really got off to a good start with keeping track of that, and that's something we'll keep track of throughout the season. And I think that's a big part of our success, last year and leading into this season, is those things that, like I said, don't show up in a normal stat sheet, but in wheelchair basketball makes the offense a lot easier.
Now talk about some of the new freshmen that have joined the team this season. Ella Freck, Aaron Buckles, Ixelt Gonzalez. Ixelt had a phenomenal weekend, had a lot of things that she contributed both offensively and defensively. We didn't see Aaron just due to medical reasons. She wasn't able to travel with the team this last weekend, but Ella also got some minutes too. Talk about what they each individually bring. They're obviously different classifications, so they have different roles on the team. But tell me about what you think that they're going to bring to this Alabama team.
Yeah, I think first of all 3 of them just fit in culturally with what we want here. And I think from day one, it was easy to see, hey, they're a great fit with the group we already had coming back. But starting with Erin, bummer she couldn't travel with us for our first college tournament due to being in concussion protocol. Hopefully she'll get to travel with us this weekend. Probably won't get to play due to the same reason. But a 1-0, she's going to be great for our depth in that spot, and she's a little baller, and watch for her down the line as just a dominant 1-0 in the game. But, yeah, she's getting better every day. Like I said, it's just a bummer we couldn't show it on the court, but excited for when she can finally come and contribute on the court. But she's doing it every day in practice. And then, we have Ella Freck from Texas, so she had her whole big family there to cheer her on. She's a 3-0, really good depth at that midpoint position, very green, but she, from day one to now is a completely different player. So I'm really excited to see what she looks like by the end of the season, because she works really hard every day. She's understanding the game a lot better, and then her ball skills are improving every day too. So excited to see where she's at by the end of the year. And then you mentioned Ixelt. She, we kind of knew when she came she was going to be a contributor right away. Just kind of bring something different. Like Bailey, Mary, and her all have different things that they bring to the game from a 4-4-5 standpoint. And I think when she comes in, she just brings that aggression right away on offense and defense, plays passing lanes really well on defense, really good at playing two as a big. And then offensively, she's just so aggressive getting inside. And, she's coming off the bench to start, and she just brings a different energy when she comes on the court. And it was great to see all of our big lineups give us something a little bit different, but all be very effective and efficient when they were out there.
Well, we're certainly going to need to see him more this season for sure, and especially this upcoming weekend, the Queen City Classic. Going to be seeing several teams that we saw last season that were right here in Strand Harden Arena, the Southeastern Rolling Rebels, Charlotte's women's team. Also going to be playing the Sportable Rim Riders and the Charlotte D2 team. And so lots of different competitions, some players you've seen before, some that some of these new players haven't seen before. But what do you think are going to be some of the things you need to improve upon that you saw this last weekend, some of the keys to success that your team is going to need to have a successful weekend in Charlotte?
Yeah, I think keep looking for offensively like the best possible look every possession. I think that's something we did really well last weekend, but it's just got to be a constant for us. It doesn't matter who takes the look as long as it's the best look every offensive possession. Defensively, keep working on our rotations, keep working on down-the-line communication. It's getting better and better every day, but it's nowhere near perfect, but we're heading in the right direction in that. And then in transition, we just got to always be the most dominant team. Playing this weekend against a few pretty solid D2 men's teams, they'll have a little bit more height, so we've got to deal with that, something we didn't see a ton of necessarily last weekend, so I think it'll be good from a standpoint of getting a different look and seeing something that we didn't see last weekend. Getting used to the basketball is going to be a part of it. We obviously usually play with the women's ball. This weekend we'll be playing with the men's ball because it's a D2 tournament. But, no excuse. We're going to go out there and play hard and hopefully put on a good show.
Joy Hazelden's not going to be traveling this weekend. She's in Great Britain at a training camp for their nationals team, and so that is a significant loss for a temporary loss at least, but definitely a lot of leadership and speed and just defensive pressure that won't be there. And so there's going to be some players that are going to have to step up and fill that role, I'm assuming. Who would you say some of the players that are definitely going to have to step up and fill Hazelden's absence?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Joy real quick, speaking of blue-collar stats, she is the definition of that. She does everything that makes us work. She does everything in transition, everything defensively, everything offensively. So it's a big, hole to fill for the weekend. But we've got some really great girls. We've got really great depth. So I think a few that kind of stand out to me. Maura Paulus is going to have to play a little bit more significant role this weekend. And then our other 2 5s that we have, Rachel Dowd and also Katie Hall. So looking for them to step up. And like you mentioned, Joy is not only a great player, but she's also one of our leaders on the court. So somebody's going to have to step up in just a vocal manner and also just with a leadership standpoint as far as on the court.
Now, when you talk about goals for the season, and obviously several-time defending national champions of the women's division, Alabama right now, there's probably a clear goal in mind. It's at nationals, take over.
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially what it is. But in terms of personal goals for player development and for domination and just certain things that you want to see, how do you decide what those goals are at the beginning of the season? Do they change from season to season, or how do you decide what those are and how to implement them?
Yeah, they do. So at the beginning of every year, we do an individual goal-setting meeting, and within that, too, we have the girls set what they think the team goals should be. And then Caroline and myself kind of go over that list, and we compile it and create what we want our team goals to be for the season. Obviously, every year we want to compete for a championship, but with that, there's a lot of different steps leading up to it. So, hey, that's a great ultimate goal, but really we break it down into a lot of smaller goals. Like I said, depending on what the girls are looking for, then also just depending on what we see every day at practice, what we could improve on, what we want our end goal to be as far as team. And then individually, it depends on, the student athlete. Sometimes it's an offensive goal. Sometimes it's a defensive goal. Sometimes it's a little bit of both. And again, that's part of what they do in the individual goal setting meeting at the beginning of the year. And then based on that, we'll kind of tailor their small groups and things like that to help them reach that goal by the end of the season.
Okay. Now, Lindsay Zerbrugg, I'm sure she was, prior to a few weeks ago, she was a part of those goals. I mean, she played a very big role last year, obviously, essentially winning the national championship where the team on a last-second buzzer beater shot. But eligibility taken away, decided she will not have any more college eligibility, so she won't be on the team anymore. She will be in a playing role. She will be in an assistant role. But talk about her legacy, not only to this Alabama program, but to the sport. I mean, she's played for a long time now, but only had an opportunity at a few nationals, and when she did, she made the most of them, and especially with Alabama. But just talk about her impact on the team and the program just in the last year and a half that she's been here, and then what you think that her role and just her career aspirations heading forward are going to mean for her.
Yeah, I think, for her, it's obviously a bummer, and it was very last minute as far as, hey, we thought we had this year left, and then that kind of got pulled out from under. But I think she's handling it the right way, just handling it with grace in the best way possible. And then for me and for her, like, we've had a conversation as far as, hey, just because playing career is over as far as collegiately, that doesn't mean you're not a part of the team, because she's a huge role on this team. And also moving forward. So she's going to help as far as practice, just give us kind of a scout look on the other side. And, I mean, what better scout look than having Zerby over there? And then as far as outside of practice, like helping with nutrition, because that's what she wants to get into when she's done with school. So kind of helping us sharpen up some of the things we do post-workout and sharpening up our smoothie station down the line, and also helping in any way she can off the court with the girls is going to be a huge role as just kind of a mentor. And then also, like I mentioned earlier, on the sideline, she's the one keeping track of our blue-collar stats. So she's a huge part of this team, and she's going to be a huge part of this team's success, just in a different role. And I think what she's meant to the program here, it's crazy to think that she's only was here for a full season, because it feels like she was here longer, partly because she's a really big, great personality. But also, I think she just brought in a lot of leadership and experience on a team that really needed it last year, just because we were a lot younger than we had been in the past. And I think moving forward, she's going to mean a ton to this program, and she's going to help kind of set some things moving forward that we want to keep, like nutrition, like I mentioned, and just being a part of our team and our program as a whole, I think is a huge benefit to us. And then her just legacy on the college division. I mean, I always enjoyed watching her play before she even got here. Like, she's just a fun person to watch. The energy she brings to the game, plays with the right attitude, and then just is a great leader on the court, and also a heck of a baller as well. So, yeah, she's going to be missed in the college division as far as playing, but she's going to mean a lot for us moving forward.
She will 100% be missed. I'm going to miss being able to call the games and, calling her name over and over, and just the electricity that she brings. Absolutely. It's going to be something that I will miss for sure. But like you said, very excited that she's still going to be in the program in some capacity, still helping out a lot, and definitely going to be a big contributor in a different way this season for this women's wheelchair basketball team. Coach Hynes, thank you so much for being with us today. Really, really appreciate it. Hey, Tide fans, time for segment 2 of the Alabama Adapted Athletics Coaches Show. With me now is men's team assistant coach Michael AuPrince. Coach AuPrince, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Absolutely. And for some of our fans that may not be as familiar with you, why don't you give us a quick profile, just how many years you were at Alabama, from when to when, your championship accolades, the things you accomplished with the program, and, go ahead and give us a good profile.
I first joined the team in 2015 as a player and played for 4 years and ended up winning 2 national championships here in the last my last 2 years here. And, it's great to be back as rather a player as a coach.
It's got to be different for sure. I mean, your relationship now with you don't have teammates, you've got players that you're coaching now, and it's a completely different dynamic, I'm sure, being back in the building. But talk about when you first heard about this position being open. When did you hear about it, and what was your initial reaction of like, oh man, there's an opportunity to go back to Alabama?
So I first heard about the position literally about 30 minutes after the old assistant coach, Sean Burns, resigned. I got a call from Coach Ford and said, hey, potentially if you were to apply for this position, like, is this something you'd be interested in? And I was like, yeah, that's something potentially. I had to talk to my wife and have a pretty hard conversation about what are we looking to do in our future lives. Like, is this something where we could see ourselves doing for the next few years? And we both looked at each other and were like, yeah, this is a good situation. I met my wife here, and we're both really familiar with Tuscaloosa and the team. I had the privilege of meeting the current team last year at two different events, one at Nationals and then another one in Dallas where I was playing for San Antonio.
Okay, so you do have some familiarity at least with the. Okay, good.
Yeah, I got to know the guys there, and I've only ever played with Ignacio Ortega, so my last year was his first year. Ryan Eliason, who's the second assistant coach, I played with him as well for 3 years, and so I'm pretty familiar with the people. A few of the guys, their recruitment trip was my last year, so don't necessarily know them directly, but I just know of them and they know of me, and they had heard of me, obviously. And they asked me questions. It was the familiarity of me with them, and then it was great. I felt like it was a perfect fit.
That's a great chemistry and definitely a familiarity to have just going into things, and that's great to hear. When was when you're beginning this trip? I mean, was it such a rapid move from Australia to here? I mean, was there a very brief period of like, oh, we got to pack everything up and you have to go through all this red tape to move from Australia to America? What was that process like?
So I was in the middle of getting my green card, which is a whole process. It's never fun. I started the process in like January 2021, and then I got hired for the position in April. Literally had my interview in Australia, and got accepted. After my last interview, I got a call from Brent, and he was like, "Yep, you've got it. When's the soonest you can get here?" And I'm like, "Well, that's a whole nother story." So trying to get my green card, we had to get Basketball Australia involved, the Australian Paralympic Committee involved, the US Olympic and Paralympic Committee involved, just trying to sort of like help us, point us in the right direction. Eventually, I got my green card. I think it was in maybe August, and was literally on the first flight out. Spent 10 days in San Antonio, where I was living last year, to spend with my wife, pack everything up, and then drove 14 hours out here, and was actually living with Coach Ryan Hynes, the women's coach, for about 10 days before my apartment became ready. So it was sort of like hurry up to wait.
Yes.
He's like, that's describes my my situation perfectly.
Yeah. Well, we're glad to have you here, of course, and just so excited for this season to come. Let's move into talking about the team now. Some of these guys, obviously there's some new players on this team, but we'll get into them in a second. Just in the last few months that you've been here and you've been making the preparations for the preseason, getting into some play now, how have you seen this team develop? Where do you feel like they're at right now in terms of just being a couple weeks away from beginning college play? And how's that development, and where does it need to be?
The great thing about the college season is it's a very long season. So where we are right now isn't necessarily where we're going to end up in March. Everything we're doing right now is to set us up for the college nationals in March. So we're not where we want to be at the moment, and that's okay. We're implementing pieces and getting people back from injury slowly but surely. So it's like as soon as we implement all those pieces, get all our game plans down and find out who we are as a team, that doesn't really happen until maybe December, January. So we'll have a lot more of a clear idea of who we are then, but we're building towards March. March is the end goal. The end goal here is to win a national championship, and we have the pieces to do it. Now we just got to put them all together.
So we look on that wall over there and see all those national championship banners. It's always the standard and the expectation here, always the goal. A couple players that have just been initiated into this new standard this year, some new freshmen on this team, Evan Lott, Colin Lancaster, and, of course, Tim Houston. Talk to me about what they're bringing to this team this year. Obviously, all different classifications, different roles in this team coming up in the future. But what have you seen from them and some of the talent that they bring to the squad?
The three of them are some of the most talented players I think the program's ever brought in. Like Tim Houston, I see a lot of myself in him as far as like just being a big guy, being able to shoot as well, and just having the work ethic to do everything it takes to succeed. Colin is probably one of the most deadly shooters I think I've seen coming out of high school ever.
Wow.
I think he's going to space the floor for us really well. Evan is coming along really, really well. First couple sessions were a little bit rough, but once he's gotten a little bit more used to the team and sort of what's expected of him, he's been doing really well. Especially the last 2 or 3 weeks has been absolutely killing it.
That's great. So excited to have them in Tuscaloosa. And they got a little bit of taste of some action just this last weekend. They were playing you. Now, that's the difference.
Yes.
They were playing you. You play for the local ABC medical team.
Yep.
And when you're not, of course, coaching the Crimson Tide, you have an interesting perspective since not a lot of assistant coaches are able to actually play their team and see how they operate on the court. So talk to me about that ABC medical game. What did you see from the players that you were playing against, that you've coached, for the last few months? It was close in the middle.
Yep.
Towards the end, Alabama pulled away a little bit. Mm-hmm. But what did you think? How did you think your team adjusted? What were some of the things that might have gone wrong early on? And then how did they shape that up and end with the final result?
I think it's a team that trains every day is obviously going to outpush a team that doesn't train every day. ABC Medical really only trains once a week. And I'm the only one, myself and Ryan Hynes, but he wasn't there. We're the only ones who really train every single day. Everyone else has full-time jobs, so that's their priority. It was really nice to see sort of, there was a little bit of a struggle sort of figuring out like what they wanted to do, but as soon as they figured it out, perfect. That's where the team came together and started doing what it needed to win, not necessarily what it took to do some cool stuff. So that mentality is something that took over, especially in the second half. First half, it was a little bit rough, but when they got it going, it was great. But there were flashes of brilliance offensively and defensively that I think a lot of people just don't see all up and down the board. Like everyone who played, because everyone played, they did some really cool stuff and some really good stuff that is going to help us win the championship.
The Queen City Classic, the men were supposed to travel for that this weekend. It was canceled, so unfortunately we'll have to go another week without seeing our men's team compete. Next weekend they will at the Truist Shootout, but it will just be the women traveling this weekend. So there's this weird break in between. You've got one game that is, it's solid competition against some adult players, and that's the first of the season. Then you've got this gap, and then you start guns a-blazing with Auburn. Right out of the gate, you've got a college opponent. So talk to me from a coach's perspective as well as when you've played before. Is there a challenge between, a focus challenge when you've got this weird gap in between playing games? You barely have any competition at the beginning of the season. Is it a challenge as a player to keep the focus or keep the intensity, or is it really just this apprehension, trying to wait for this game, like you said earlier, a hurry up and wait kind of thing with Auburn coming up? What is that like? What's the feeling on the team right now? Just like we just want to play,
They just want to play,
yeah. And
I think they're ready for whoever comes at them. Yeah, we would have liked to have played this weekend, but unfortunately we couldn't get the teams that to play against. We don't want to go up there and play the same team 4 times because we don't really get much out of it. Even if it's if another college team was there, yeah, sure. But unfortunately, I'm pretty sure it was just the Charlotte D1 team, which we'd get some stuff out of it. But overall, I think it's easier just to wait for Auburn and hit the ground running, because even though we're not playing now, every weekend we're going to be playing some games, and that's the grind of the season. Is we're just going to be playing games every single weekend and traveling a lot and just playing. And before we know it, March is going to be here, and we'll have played 30 games. So,
I can't wait for it. It was such a blast to broadcast these games last season and to finally be getting to do it again.
Yeah, I was watching from home. It was great.
little different seat this year. Yeah, little different seat for sure. But again, Coach AuPrince, we're so excited to have you with the program and very excited for this upcoming season. I want to take this opportunity to thank Hollister Incorporated, one of the great sponsors of Alabama Adapted Athletics. At Hollister, they're dedicated to delivering the highest standard of quality incontinence care products, and each member of the Hollister team is committed to making a difference in the lives of the people who use them. To learn more about Hollister's continence care products or to find one that may work for you, visit Hollister.com or call 1-888-808-7456 to speak with a member of the Hollister team. Hollister Incorporated is a proud sponsor of Alabama Adapted Athletics, and we very much appreciate their continued support. And Tide fans, that's all we got for the Alabama Adapted Athletics Coaches Show. Thank you, as always, to our sponsors, Honey Stinger, Hollister, RGK, ABC Medical, Physio Elite PT, and all of the rest of the sponsors. We really appreciate it. Live streams of the Queen City Classic will be available at BamaAdapted.com. Follow us on socials at Alabama Adapted on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. And, of course, check back into our YouTube page weekly for new editions of the Alabama Adapted Athletics Coaches Show. We're going to try and have weekly installments for the rest of the season and hopefully in the future. And have a great rest of your day from wherever you may be watching or listening, and Roll Tide.